The most important thing about your introduction is that you want the person on the other side to visualize that you can do something for them. Think about your introduction answering the question, what do you do and how does it help me?
That's Rebecca Okamoto. She's known as the 20-word person. Rebecca is a communication and clarity consultant who founded the Evoke Strategy Group, which specializes in helping professionals communicate, align, and influence at higher levels. Rebecca is on a mission to change the way overlooked and misunderstood voices are seen, heard, recognized, and rewarded. So you'll learn 1, how to introduce yourself in 20 words or less. 2, how to project confidence in your introduction, both in person and online. And 3, best practices for crafting great first impressions. And if you want a quick summary write-up of the actionable wisdom that Rebecca shares, I recommend you mosey over to awesomeatyourjob.com and sign up for the free Gold Nugget email newsletter. I'm Pete Makaitis. This is How to Be Awesome at Your Job. And now, here's Rebecca. Rebecca, welcome.
Thank you very much, Pete. Super great to be here.
Well, I'm excited to chat with you, and you have a bit of a claim to fame. You are known as the 20-word person. What on earth does that mean?
It means that I teach people how to introduce, market, and promote themselves in 20 words or less.
Oh, well, I didn't count those words, but it feels like you just did that to us right now.
I did. It was less than 20 words. Trust me on that.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I mean, that sounds catchy, but Rebecca, tell us, why is this an important skill? What's it matter?
Well, I think it matters because we live in a multitasking, attention deficit, highly distracted environment right now. And introducing yourself is super important. And making a great first impression, I think everyone knows is important. But in this day and age, it doesn't matter how smart you are, what a great fit you are, how much value you add if no one's paying attention. So you have to be able to grab people's attention in as few as 20 words.
Okay. And can you maybe tell us a story of what's the impact of being able to do that versus not do that? Have you seen sort of any cool, dramatic before-after transformations when people really master this skill?
So I had a client who really struggled with explaining what made her unique. So the reason why she came to me was just saying, I know people's eyes are glazing over. I know I'm going into the weeds, and I just can't explain what makes me unique, and I can't stop myself. So we just worked on how do you introduce yourself in 20 words. So I don't know, a couple months later, she writes to me and she says, oh my gosh, I was at a networking event. Everybody went around the room and introduced themselves. I went the 20-word route. Afterwards, some CEO comes up to her and says, man, you really stood out compared to everybody else. I'd like to talk about opportunities to work together. 2 weeks later, they're meeting in New York to discuss those opportunities. So she went from 0 opportunities and people saying no and I don't understand to, my gosh, everybody gets the value. The thing that she loved was people get the story I'm trying to tell.
Lovely. Okay. Well, so tell us, can we maybe hear a demonstration of what's a typical, so tell me about yourself, or so who are you, or what are you about? So people give you that invitation, the prompt, like do the thing now. And what's sort of a typical answer versus an optimized Rebecca-style 20-word or less answer?
I think most people try to explain all of their qualifications and experiences. So I'm a 20-year supply chain professional, and I worked for Procter & Gamble for 15 of those years. And I worked in Singapore, I worked in New York, I worked in all these different locations, and I managed many, many, many people, and I started up plants. Mm-hmm. So what people end up doing is they just talk about themselves. And in my case, when I used to do it, I would go on for like 3 minutes thinking that was an optimized pitch.
Yes, I remember. The corporate days. I've been sort of on my own for a long time here, but I recall many meetings where, like, hey, we're doing a kickoff. It's a interdisciplinary team with representatives from different functions and business units, and we're getting together, and so we all go around and say the thing. And I remember finding that so boring. And maybe it's like, oh, maybe I'm just selfish. because I don't care about what these people are saying to me right now. But Rebecca, you're making me feel comforted that it sounds like this is the default way people feel when they hear most people's introductions.
It is. And I had large organizations when I worked for a large corporation, and people would go around the room like that, and I'd have to say thank you, because the first person goes on for 10 seconds and the next person does 20 and then 30 and then 50 and then 2 minutes, and all the time gets sucked up, and I still didn't know what anybody did.
Mm-hmm.
But if you say something more like, well, I help organizations struggling with transformations engage and embrace like change with excellence. So really helping people understand the value that you bring or the difference that you bring.
Okay.
A really simple example I typically tell people is you'll say something like, I'm an award-winning best-selling author, which is I describe myself. These are my accomplishments, but it leaves the listener to kind of guess, what does that mean for me? But if you said, I help new authors get published faster. Oh, I get what you do.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the reaction you're trying to get instantly is someone saying, oh, that's me, or I know someone who needs that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And as you say these things, I'm thinking, I see a lot of LinkedIn taglines that sound exactly like this. I'm imagining in an interdisciplinary team assembling kickoff at a corporate environment, if you were to say that in that environment, they might want more. I mean, it's intriguing, but it's like, yeah, okay, but so which department are you with? And like, what are you doing for us here in this team? How do you expand upon that? And sort of that's your starter, and then you add in different contexts, or what's the strategy?
I think it depends on your environment. So if you're in a corporate setting and everyone's just going around the room and the leader's just sitting there, it's just you one way. So you just give a simple introduction. So I'm Rebecca. I'm from the demand planning organization, and I tell stories with data that turn forecasts into actionable, profitable insights. So now they know where you work, your name, and what you can do for them. Instead of, I have 15 years with Procter & Gamble, and I did demand planning, but before that I was a market planner, before that I was in a plant, before that I was an inventory planner. That's what people normally do.
Yeah. And I wonder what's behind that. Maybe just because that's what we've seen. But in other ways, it's almost like, this is my only opportunity. It's almost like a little bit sad in terms of like the human need for validation, for acknowledgement, for mattering and significance. It's like, this is my time that I get to share my career arc journey history, because most people don't want to hear it. But now is my moment.
Yes, or I don't know what else to say. I saw everyone else doing it, or you just think, I'm hoping that you understand that this is impressive and I'm impressing you. And what you learn, instead of trying to impress people, I'm smart, is trying to tell people, here's what I can do for you. They remember that because like, oh, wow, she can help me with insights or with profit. You want to be remembered for that, not with, well, she worked in a lot of places. She sounds smart. And then forgettable.
I hope you understand that I'm smart. That's like I'm kind of a big deal, Anchorman style.
Yeah. But I was someone in a corporate career who started off super timid, and I longed to be recognized.
Yeah.
So when I had an opportunity, I was just like, and I worked here and I worked here and I worked here, and I just assumed they would know. That made me valuable. It made me forgettable, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Well, so now it's not just a matter of thinking, okay, Rebecca said I should do it 20 words and word count 18. I guess I'm done. You actually have a process or a sequence that you walk people through in order to land on a winning 20 words. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I will say the most important thing about your introduction is that you want the person on the other side to visualize that you can do something for them. They're like, oh my gosh, we were just talking about that, or, oh, I know someone who needs that. Here's a framework that I don't share a lot, but I tell people, just describe your audience really clearly. So, for instance, a friend of mine is an excellent executive coach, and she tells people, I help high potential leaders who find themselves in high stress, high stakes, or no-win situations. And people are like, oh. And then she said the first time she did it, people are like, oh my gosh, you have to meet so-and-so. She's in a no-win situation. It makes it so clear. You just say, here's who I help. And if you're vivid, I help women over 50 rebrand and relaunch new meaningful careers. Oh, I know someone who's just trying to relaunch their career.
You know, Rebecca, what I really love about that is that this is clicking for me because I recently listened to Dan Allison. He's since moved on to new ventures, but he achieved great renown and fame amongst financial advisors as the guru who told them to crack the referral code, because financial advisors, they always want referrals. And this guy figured out in great detailed studies what leads clients to refer and not refer and some of the key things. And that was one of the big ahas, is that from a financial advisor's perspective, it's like, who do we help? It's like, well, anyone who's got $2 million in investable assets. It's like, but that's not very helpful in terms of being referable on the client side. Because like, well, I don't know how much assets, my brother-in-law has. It feels rude to ask. But if you describe that audience very clearly, such as I help doctors and lawyers in their 50s figure out how to make their money work for them, or something like that. It's like, oh, I know a doctor and a lawyer in his 50s, and he actually seemed to have some questions about how to make his money work for him. So now all of a sudden, it's become super duper clear. Oh, you two perhaps need to know each other.
Right. I work with a lot of law firms, and some of the law firms are like, well, okay, or they're lobbyists. And they say, well, it's not good to say you're a lobbyist. And I said, well, can't you say something like, well, I help companies who suddenly find themselves on the wrong side of the national conversation.
Okay. Yeah.
So like you're the ship that just ran into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, and you suddenly find yourself on the wrong side of that equation. They're like, oh, yeah, you can describe your audience's problem. So that's one way.
I help corporations rewrite the rules so they make more money. I was like, it's that feels a little off-putting to most. Although if you run a corporation who wants the rules rewritten to make more money, then you would like to be talking to that lobbyist.
Well, I think you want to say it in whatever they're looking for or saying.
Yeah.
But I normally say, like, I help my target audience achieve a benefit they desire. That's the easiest one. And the benefit they desire is something that they say they want. So I help worried job hunters confidently explain why they're the ideal candidate to hire. So I interviewed a lot of, when I started my career, like job hunters, and they always use the word worried, confident, not confident, and struggle. So I decided I help worried job hunters confidently explain why they're the ideal candidate to hire. And people are like, oh, my sister's really struggling. Oh, my kid is really struggling. They can identify. So that's a really effective way of introducing yourself.
It is really good. It reminds me of some basic core principles associated with copywriting.
Yes.
Is that ideally, if you know the words people use when you speak them, it's like, oh, this guy's for me. That's how I think about it. That's what I'm looking for.
Yes.
Even though you might use perfectly valid synonyms, but it's like, well, that's not what I'm not sure if that's for me or not. Like I remember one time I was doing a lot of Myers-Briggs trainings. And so I could call myself an MBTI practitioner because that's what we call ourselves when we get certified. But most folks are just like, oh, what I want is someone to do a Myers-Briggs workshop for me. It's like, oh, well, right. I do Myers-Briggs workshops. So then we got to talk.
Exactly. So then if you're talking to your peers, it's different than talking to your executive, for instance. And when you're pitching to them, you're talking about, I want what I can do to help you with your margin improvement. But you might be telling your boss, I can save you money.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
So your introduction changes depending on your audience and what they say.
Well, Rebecca, you make it sound so quick and easy. Is it so quick and easy, or is there a bit more of a deep research process underlying the landing on these up to 20 words?
Quick and easy now, but I will say that when I started, funny you should say copywriting, because I am obsessed. I'm not a copywriter. I'm a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
But engineers like to figure out how things go together, and I'm obsessed with the concept of copywriting. Because to me, they have to be persuasive with words. And how do you give a headline that grabs someone's attention to get someone to want to click? So I learned about persuasion is a journey, and it's about getting someone to want to know more. That's how I designed my frameworks. And then I always thought, what if you don't have work experience? What if you're my nephew and he's just starting off work and he doesn't say, like, I've done all these things and I can tell stories with data. What should he say? And I go, maybe you should use your passion or your mission or your strengths.
Okay.
But it's all about getting someone to say, oh, tell me more.
Okay. I like these rules of thumb. So we want them to say, oh, tell me more.
Yes.
Super. Any other, and so we want to clearly describe, I help target audience get outcome they want.
Yes.
Any other rules of thumb or things you have in mind as you're crafting these?
Yeah, I would say think about your introduction, answering the question, what do you do and how does it help me? So I help my target audience achieve a benefit they desire. Because a lot of people say, well, 20 words, they completely miss any of my frameworks. And they're like, ask me to find your purple unicorn. What? What's a purple unicorn? Like, why am I asking you that? Because they think it's the most important to be clever. I'm a process architect and I help calm chaos and spread glitter. And I'm like, you spread glitter? I'm sorry, why do you spread glitter?
I got to clean that up. That's going to be a hassle. I don't want you spread glitter.
But they're trying to be so it's like, what do you do and how do you help me? And I'm pretty sure people are not looking for in the context of process engineers, spreading glitter. So that's the other thing to think about is be clear. You don't have to be clever.
You spread glitter in our manufacturing plant. That's going to be...
That's a problem.
Problematic for our processes. In
yes.
fact. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that's really good to think about it in terms of their word choice and selection, because spread glitter might be super resonant for you and in a way, a very lovely little motto or inspiration, print up a accessory for your office wall. Cool beans. But to share it with others who don't have that same perspective is just going to fall flat.
Right. So, or you can just say, I solve your problem. Someone from 2018, he came to one of my workshops and he said, I read your blog and I redid my entire introduction. It's now in 6 words. We make Salesforce easy to use. And he said, now when he introduced himself, people would stop him and say, hey, Bob, come over here. This guy makes Salesforce easy to use. It was so easy for them to understand. They were recruiting people for him and they were able to repeat his personal brand. And it's 6 words. So I tell people it's not about 20. It's about the fewest number of words that makes the person go, I know who that is, or I want that.
Okay. Lovely. Well, Rebecca, it feels like you are a master of concision or succinctness. It seems like understood. What else do we need to say about this matter?
So the first thing is then remember it's about your audience, not yourself. And don't try to be clever. And then you have to practice. So I have a lot of people tell me, oh, yeah, I've worked on my introduction. Oh, wait, it's in my phone. And I'm like, okay, that's actually not going to work. You have to memorize it and then you practice it because you want the intonation to sound confident. You want to be able to say it anytime someone waves a microphone in front of you. I've had people try to sneak up on me and say, introduce yourself and at a lunch thing and say, stand up and introduce yourself. And I'm like, that's never going to be my problem because I'm always going to be able to introduce myself because I practice. And first impressions really matter. So I would say practice, practice, and practice.
Yeah. To the point about practicing, we had a previous guest, Laura Sicola, on the show, and she made a phenomenal point, is that we know our names so well, or maybe anything that we know super well. We have a tendency to speak it super duper fast. And I think I'm guilty of this in my own podcast intros. Like, to check out the show notes or the transcript or the links to ads that we've referenced, go to awesomeatyourjob.com. It's like, okay, hold up. If this is a new person, like, well, what all is there? Huh? It's like, I have to continuously remind myself, and sometimes I fail here, is to think about them hearing it for the first time. And she says, many of us, we're saying our names wrong. We're like, I'm Pete Mockaitis. Like, the what? It's like, I'm Pete Mockaitis. So there's the pause and then the intonation movements. So the name itself is heard very clearly, which is actually a genuine risk because we know our names so well, we might spit it out too darn fast.
And people tend to go, like, my name is Rebecca Okamoto. Like, you're asking a question. You don't know your name? You're not realizing that you're just saying it so fast. Yeah. So I tell people record themselves. That's what I do. I practice all the time to get that muscle memory because introducing myself is important and I do it for a living. So I do that. And then I always say the last tip is test it out because it makes sense to you, but it may or may not make sense to someone else. So a different executive coach, I was in a workshop and he said, "Oh, I have one. I help high potential managers having problems right now." And I'm like, "Well, what does that mean having problems right now? What kind of problems?" And he said, "You don't understand?" I'm like, "No, I don't understand." He goes, "Well, that's because you don't understand."
Health problems, money problems, marital problems.
Exactly. And then I'm like, "I think it's unclear." And he goes, "It's not clear. You don't understand." I'm like,
Ooh.
"That's what I'm telling you. I don't understand." So he was angry at me. And I'm like, "I'm the listener. How am I supposed to recommend you to someone?" So if someone tells you it's not clear, you get defensive, it's a sign that it probably isn't clear. Just because you understand it, your introduction is for the listener, not for yourself.
Yeah. Certainly, because in a way, I'm imagining that that could become super resonant shortly. It's like, I help managers who have problematic employees they're worried about firing, or who may need performance improvement plans. It's like, oh my goodness, thank you. I've been worried about this and didn't know what to do about it. And here's a guy who can help.
And what you find is if I tell people I help new entrepreneurs introduce, market, and promote themselves in 20 words or less, people say, "Well, do you help not new entrepreneurs?" You're like, "Who else can you help? Can you help students?" If you're really clear about your audience and it makes a very clear impact on the person, the chances of them saying, "Do you help someone else?" go way up. But if you're like, "Oh, I help this group, that group, and the other group," when people say, "Oh, I'm the generalist or whatever, I'm kind of, I don't know, multi-tool," and you're just like, it's too broad and no one can envision what that will do for them.
Okay. Yes, the visualization point again, coming back.
Yeah. I'm a jack of all trades. And you're like, well, what do I do with a jack of all trades? Can you help me troubleshoot this type of problem within 90 days or less? Can you help me get this result without using a lot of capital? That's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Well, let's talk a bit more about when we do the practice. We talked a bit about the pacing, and then we talked quite a bit about the actual word choice themselves. Can you give us some perspective on tone, rhythm, body language, anything else when it comes to the delivery of these up to 20 words?
Laura Sokola, I've seen her TED Talk. I actually heard the same advice she gave in her TEDx talk from a Dale Carnegie class, which is saying your name is really important. And as someone been on the receiving end of people from all over Asia where I didn't know their language, you don't want to like, "What was your name again? What was your name again?" So saying it slowly and practicing is really important. And then from the pacing standpoint, you don't have to say it super fast because you're trying to get a conversation. So it's like, here's what I do. And I like to say mine with a lot of confidence. So it's just like, that's what I do. And I make my tone bend down at the end. I help people introduce, market, and promote themselves in 20 words or less. And I just give it a pause.
Okay. And then we'll just say facial expressions, hand gesture, posture, anything to think about there?
I guess if you're just sitting, you can only do so much. I would use your palms up is a very famous one where speaking with your palms up, smiling is a really big deal. It's been shown that people who smile have just genuinely more likable from a first impression standpoint. So you want to sit up straight. You want to have good posture. If someone told you have good posture, it makes a difference. I also think that if you're standing, right, that whole thing about eye contact, but if you're on a Zoom call, if you're on, you want to look into the camera and you want to simulate what eye contact is so that it looks like you're looking someone in the eye.
That's good. Well, I was just about to ask about this in the digital world. Any perspectives on making great first impressions when you do have that digital domain going on?
So many people turn their cameras off. You want to get your camera on.
Whole time.
Yes, whole time.
Okay.
And when you're speaking, you want to look into whatever, you have a red dot or a green dot, whatever, you want to look into that camera. A friend of mine is a coach for people who do a lot of things on Zoom. And one of the things he told me to do is stop using big hand gestures and moving back and forth. He said, so you want to sit and ground yourself. Think of it like a close up on a camera. So he said, when you're on a stage, yeah, big arm gestures, big bold gestures are good. But when you're sitting there, moving around is very distracting. It makes you look nervous.
Okay, understood.
Oh, I have one other tip from an introduction standpoint, which is I have multiple introductions for people. You have different audiences. They're at different levels if it's in one organization. You don't need one introduction that fits for everyone. You have an introduction for the type of people that you're meeting.
Certainly. So in a social environment in which you are not expecting to generate business or professional anything, you would be going in a totally different direction.
Right.
Well, now I wonder, we probably no longer use the formula, I help target audience get result they want.
Sometimes you can. It kind of depends on what you're doing, but you might want to do like your passion, mission, or strength. I work in the healthcare field and I'm passionate about helping people in need, creating opportunity for vulnerable communities. You might want to talk about it that way. Who you serve. So they're like, oh, I love that you help people in need.
Okay.
But again, it's all about creating a visual in your audience's mind so they can be like, that's really great. So tell me more.
And how about purely social?
Well, I mean, I still tell people what I do. So it's like, well, if I'm sitting on a plane and I don't know the person, they're like, what do you do? Oh, I work with, I'll just pick something I think is generic because I'm just looking to, I'll say spark a conversation. Oh, I work with personal branding and I help people introduce themselves in 20 words or less. So it just makes it clear what I do, whether they say I know someone or not. I just want them to go like, oh, that's interesting.
Sure thing.
So they can see what it is.
Gotcha. I guess I'm imagining, so we're at a barbecue and it's just, oh, hey, what's going on? Oh, hey, I'm Pete. Oh, hi, Pete. What's your story? Like, well, there's many ways I could go with that, sir.
Yeah, I mean, you could say like I work, if you want to talk about your work, and then you want to put it in like I work in the supply chain, and it's like being maybe this is not a good example for today's environment, which is like, I'm like an air traffic controller that helps, products go from A to B crossing the country, something like that. Or I make sure that they show up on your shelves on time. A really generic, the way you would describe it to your 7-year-old nephew or niece.
Okay, certainly.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it so that if you're like, if I could explain it to a kid, it's probably a generic enough one to use in a social environment.
All right. Well, anything else you want to make sure to mention before we hear about some of your favorite things?
No, I think that covers it. I just really love it when people tell me that it made a difference where they felt seen and heard. That's the greatest part about having a great introduction.
Oh, beautiful. Big thanks to Rebecca for sharing her wisdom with us. And big thanks to our sponsors. Check them out. One sponsored checkout is Quince. Quince clothing looks and feels great at an impressive price. Quince's holiday season lineup is simple and smart, including $50 Mongolian cashmere sweaters and stylish, durable wool coats. Quince partners directly with ethical factories and top artisans, so they cut out the middlemen to deliver premium quality at half the cost of other high-end brands. That means you get to give luxury quality without having to stomach the luxury price tag. I have been loving my Quince red cashmere beanie cap. It holds up super well for cashmere and really for anything. There's no holes, there's no snags, there's no tears. It is so soft, toasty, warm, and delightful. I'm wearing it this very moment. In fact, because I usually am. So give and get timeless holiday staples that last this season with Quince. Go to quince.com/awesome for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/awesome. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/awesome. One sponsored checkout is Vanguard. For all the financial advisors listening, let's talk bonds for a minute. Capturing value in fixed income is not easy. Bond markets are massive, murky, and a lot of firms will just throw a couple flashy funds your way and call it a day. But not Vanguard. Vanguard bonds provide top-grade products across the board. Their lineup includes over 80 bond funds actively managed by a 200-person global squad of sector specialists, analysts, and traders. Vanguard's been in the game for a long time at a scale that gives them a serious edge. They're able to invest across many sectors, maturities, and geographies, spotting opportunities that others might miss. Vanguard takes a steady approach, focusing on reliability and consistency. So if you're looking to give your clients consistent results year in and year out, go see the record for yourself at Vanguard.com/audio. That's Vanguard.com/audio. All investing is subject to risk. Vanguard Marketing Corporation, distributor. One sponsor to check out is Taylor. Taylor is an award-winning AI and expert-styled menswear rental subscription service featured in GQ, Vogue, and more. Taylor's mission is to help people look good so they can achieve their personal and professional goals while reducing fashion waste to support a more sustainable future. Some guys are hard to shop for. They seem to have everything. Taylor solves that by offering many style choices. We're talking 20,000 garments, 2,000 styles, 300 brands curated just for them, making it a thoughtful clothing gift that they'll actually wear. I personally really enjoyed how quickly, easily, and delightfully I was cruising through my online style quiz. And with renting, there's no need to worry about shopping, commitment, laundry, or landfill with your clothes. So give the gift of time, convenience, and effortless style. Visit Taylor.style and get 10% off Taylor gift cards with the code PODCASTGIFT. That's TAELOR.style and use code PODCASTGIFT for 10% off Taylor gift cards. Well, now could you share a favorite quote, something you find inspiring?
I say that my favorite quote is from JFK's Moon Talk. So at Rice University, 1963, he said, "We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade, not because it's easy, but because it's hard." So I find it very inspiring. And he said something similar when he gave I think it was at a prayer meeting. He said, do not pray for easy lives, pray to be stronger men. I think it's really important that we try. And I think that adversity is a good thing.
Okay.
So I found it very inspirational.
And a favorite study or experiment or bit of research?
I'm obsessed with the dilution effect, the dilution factor. So it means that the more you speak, the more you try to explain, the less impact your message has, which is like another reason to say why you want it in 20 words or less. You don't need a lot of things. You just need one thing for someone to grab a hold of. So I've been studying a lot of the dilution effect. And then I try to tell people when I coach them, you're diluting your message. You're making it hard for me to understand. So just give me one thing and let me ask you about the rest.
All right. And a favorite book?
Oh, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, who I believe was one of your...
He sure was.
guests. Yeah. Yeah. I recommend his book because then you can help people with the intonation and they can understand how important it is to get someone to like, oh my God, that's me. And that's what your introduction is. Very similar to that.
Mm-hmm. And a favorite tool?
I'm obsessed with copywriting. So the tool I use when I work with people it's called problem agitation solution. So when you're pitching yourself, you give them the headline, which is I help people with something to say but struggle to say it. Then you talk about a problem that people have and you sort of agitate it and say, here's how I solve it. So I love that tool.
And a favorite habit?
I have a new habit. I have been working on using rituals. Rituals are a sequence of things that you do to focus yourself and really imbue purpose to the activity that you're doing. A really famous person that does this is Rafa Nadal, the tennis player. Like before he serves, he goes through a sequence of things to get himself ready. He sits down between points and he like straightens his water bottles and he's just ordering his mind and he's getting himself set. So when I write, instead of procrastinating, instead of getting popcorn, I'm going to have a ritual that makes it really meaningful for me to sit down and whether it's 20 minutes or 2 hours, focus and purpose.
And what is the ritual?
I grab a mug of a hot beverage. I take a few deep breaths to center myself. And I ask myself how I'm feeling. Because if I'm feeling purposeful, that's good. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, nervous, whatever, I ask myself like, hey, what's going on? Why do you feel that way? And then I tell myself, be grateful for the moment and the opportunity that you have, that you get to write, that you get to help people. And what is your purpose? And when I center myself on my purpose and who I'm trying to serve, all of that stuff goes away. And it takes me 2-3 minutes, kind of center myself. But it always starts with a mug of like a hot beverage. I don't know why, but I just like that. And now every day And I used to do it randomly. Now every day, either at 7 a.m. or 10 a.m., I have a mug of something and I start my day really focused.
Okay. And is there a key nugget you share that really seems to connect and resonate and they quote back to you often?
So since I gave this TEDx talk about how to introduce yourself and get hired, people play back to me all the time. I didn't realize that it's about you versus about me. So I tell people about me is something like I'm an award-winning best-selling author. About you is I help new authors get published faster. They play this back to me all the time.
Okay. And if folks want to learn more or get in touch, where would you point them?
They can come to my LinkedIn profile, which is just Rebecca Okamoto, or they can go to my website, which is 20words.com, the number 20words.com, or Rebecca at 20words.com.
Okay. And you have a final challenge or call to action for folks looking to be awesome with their jobs?
Yes. So I will tell you, my challenge to them is to think, what if? What if that inner critic inside your head is wrong? What if that inner voice is wrong? So when you introduce yourself before and they're like, oh, I'm no good, I shouldn't have even tried. What if the only difference between that being seen and heard and recognized was your introduction, was your ability to be clear? And it's a skill, not a problem. What if?
All right, Rebecca, thank you.
Thank you.
I love what Rebecca had to say about switching gears from I did this and then I did this and then I did this to 20 words of this is what I do that might just pique their interest to say, I might need that. Someone I know might need that. Tell me more. Good bits from Rebecca. If you want to check out the show notes or the transcript or the links to items that we referenced, please drop on by awesomeatyourjob.com/EP1113. Hope to catch you next time, and peace.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.